So what's going on, guys? At this point, we all know the results. The Red Sox are knocked out. The Yankees are starting the ALCS tomorrow. But I just wanted to focus on the Red Sox in this video and talk about the last two games against the Astros, my overall thoughts on the season as a whole now that it's over, and the recent news of John Farrell losing his job, I think yesterday. So let's get right to it. Before we get into the last two games of the series, let's talk about the overall thoughts. Let's keep it real, guys. Losing in 4 games in the ALDS is not something to be proud of. It's not something to be ashamed of necessarily, but for Xander Bogaerts to be kind of giving the Red Sox credit for not getting swept after losing Game 4, I don't want to hear that as a Red Sox fan. I just don't think that's a very good mental attitude to have. If you're a Red Sox player, much like their fans, you should be disappointed. Let's keep it real, guys. The expectations were very high coming into this year. They went out and got Chris Sale. Granted, they had some injuries, but this was a team that heading into the season was predicted along with the Cubs to be the World Series favorites. So this was not just a team that was expected to win the division and make the playoffs, which, yeah, the Red Sox did, but they were expected to do well in the postseason. And for a second consecutive year, the Red Sox, come October, are just not a very good team. And yeah, last year Cleveland went to the World Series, so you can use that excuse. This year, Houston won over 100 games, so it's not like the Red Sox, didn't show up, even though they didn't. They did play a better team, but they didn't show up. In those first 2 games, what? The Game 4 loss, which was devastating, and I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes, but that's devastating enough. But to go out in the first 2 games and get your ass handed to you, that's even worse. Yeah, it felt worse on Sunday when they actually lost, or Monday, whenever day it was, but at least they were in that game. Games 1 and 2 didn't hurt as much, but it was just like, what the fuck? You get to October and this is what you do. It was just disgusting. So let's get right to these games. Game 3. Let's talk about the one highlight of the postseason for the Red Sox. Doug Fister goes out in an elimination game, struggles from the start. Seems like every inning the Astros just have runners on base. And then David Price comes in and he looked well. It looked pretty good in the first game, I think it was, when he pitched. And comes in a pretty dangerous spot. Gets out of it, manages to shut down the Astros for the rest of the game for the most part. He did get relieved once they broke the door open, but David Price was pitching with a 1-run lead, I think. His entire time he was on the mound, the Red Sox were up a run. And, didn't give up anything. He was just fantastic and outstanding, and a lot of people wanted this guy not only to be a critical factor in Game 5, which never happened, but also to be reintegrated into the rotation. Reimplemented, whatever the proper word is, into the starting rotation, because that's how dominant he's looked. Even if you can only throw 50 to 65 pitches, that's how dangerous he was, that people wanted him to have people wanted him on the mound in the big spot in Game 5, which is something that nobody would have said before this postseason. Before the postseason, he was the last guy you wanted on the mound, and in this series, he was the only pitcher that was really good for the Red Sox. The offense finally hit. It was nice to see Rafael Devers get a home run. It was nice to see Benintendi hit the ball a little bit. Betts looked all right. That was a big day for the offense. They really needed it. They avoided the sweep, which, thank God. Had they gotten swept again, I'd be much angrier in this video. The fact that they lost in 4, I'm still mad, but it's also been a couple of days since the loss, so I've kind of moved on. But, let's get to Game 4. And, very, very hard game for me to watch. I still have it recorded on my TV, but I was at work when this game was going on. I'm going to just rant real quick about this. I understand the Red Sox ratings were down this year and they weren't a very popular team, but they're the fucking Red Sox. It bothers me that they were scheduled for a bunch of day games. I get the Yankees in their market, and I get Cleveland being the number 1 seed. And I understand that they should be prime time over the Red Sox for, let's say 3 of the 5 games or 4 of the 5 games, but you can't give the Red Sox one night game over the Yankees. I was only able to really watch their game on Sunday. The Thursday and Friday games, I was at work and I was watching it a little bit, but you're not sitting on your couch. You're not really able to watch pitch by pitch. I was still working. You know what I mean? So this game starts at, I think it was 1 o'clock. I think it was 1 or 1:30, and it was supposed to rain too, but it didn't. But anyways, I'm watching this shit, and Porcello's struggling early on, and I'm just thinking, oh my God. So then Chris Sale comes in, and I think the game at that point was 1-1, or the Red Sox may have had the lead. Or it was 2-1 Houston. And then, the Red Sox get that home run by Benintendi, which was critical. And this is a guy that's being talked about and being traded for Giancarlo Stanton, or a big bat in this offseason, and that might be the right move. But, man, Benintendi's going to be a stud, and he had a good year this year. Again, his postseason was a little bit, it was all right, but he did have that big home run, which I thought might have put the Sox over the top, and would have been the key hit to send this series to 5 games. And that's what it looked like. Chris Sale comes in, and much like David Price, in Game 3, he's just outstanding out of the pen, shutting down the Astros. Astros just looked like they couldn't touch this guy. This looked like the Chris Sale I expected to see in Game 1. And, after the 7th inning, and he looked kind of gassed, but I still was like, this guy is dominant. Like, we got to keep him in. They end up leaving him in. He gives up a home run to Alex Bregman. Bregman took him deep in the first, it was a 2-1 pitch in the 8th. I couldn't believe it was 3-3. I missed the home run. And then Chris Sale gets relieved, and they bring Craig Kimbrell in, and he can't get out Josh Reddick. The Astros go up 4-3. They tack on a run in the 9th and win 5-3. And, I was okay with that loss because you know what? You went down with your best. Chris Sale was the one that gave up the game-tying run, and Craig Kimbrell was your best reliever who comes in and can't get out Josh Reddick, who puts the Astros ahead. It's disappointing to see those big guys struggle. And Chris Sale, I will give a little bit of slack to because he probably shouldn't have pitched the 8th inning, but I'm not mad that he did, and it was just unfortunate that he did give up a home run there. But, Craig Kimbrell couldn't put away Josh Reddick, and it was better he blew it than Addison Reed. I'd rather Kimbrell give up the hit because at least you're going down with your best guys. And the Red Sox offense didn't get it done again. I mean, this offense had an opportunity in the 2nd inning with the bases loaded, nobody out, and they managed not to score. Just a very disappointing game, very disappointing end, because I really felt that if they were able to hold on to Game 4, Houston would have been feeling the pressure in Game 5, and Game 5 would have been, the Red Sox might have lost that game, but it would have everybody would have been on edge and nerved up, and instead, that opportunity never presented itself because the Red Sox couldn't finish off the job. And so they deserve to go home. I mean, that's the bottom line. Houston was the better team. They were a better team all year, and in the postseason, they just proved in that series they were the dominant one. But again, the Red Sox, I think, underachieved. To get knocked out in 4 games, after losing Ortiz, but then bulking up with Chris Sale and trying to have a power rotation. And granted, yeah, David Price went down for a lot of the season, but to get bounced in 4 games is still not acceptable. This team, if they'd gone to the ALCS and lost, if they'd gone to the World Series and lost, I could have lived with that a little bit more. I mean, yeah, it would have hurt to lose in either of those series, but at least they would have made a little bit of a run. I mean, the season ends a week from last Sunday. The regular season ended, and then 8 days later, it's over. Like, if they go to the ALCS and they go 6-7 games, that's going to keep me in baseball for, another 2 weeks. So I'm probably in mid-October by that point. Probably close to the end of October. And October 22nd. That's a nice month of baseball. It's a nice month of postseason baseball. I'm watching the other games because I'm trying to see who the Sox might match up against. And instead they lose in 4 games. And yeah, a week later, baseball season's, for all intents and purposes, over. So that's about it on that. Quickly on John Farrell, he loses his job. Everybody hated this guy. I wasn't his biggest fan. I really didn't care if he got fired, and I was kind of happy when I found the news. But I think people are overhyping this. I mean, let's keep it real, guys. John Farrell's not the one in the box taking strike 3 with the bases loaded. John Farrell's not on the mound not being able to put away a mediocre hitter. John Farrell can only do so much, and yeah, sometimes he does idiotic things. I don't like the way he speaks to the press. I think he sounds very corporate and political, which it's baseball. You should be able to show a little bit of emotion here, but that's not how he is. But I'm just saying, I mean, for the Red Sox fans that are very excited and think that that's going to be a drastic change, I think it could be a change in the clubhouse, which potentially could translate to more victories. I mean, there is going to be an impact one way or the other with the firing of John Farrell, and, let's see who they go out and hire. But I don't think that he's going to, with him being out of here, I don't think that makes them a World Series favorite again. No, they have clear needs on the field that need to be made, and until they're made, this team's probably not going to go to the World Series, and they're probably not going to win the division, because I'll tell you right now, after looking at the Yankees team as they are constructed as right now, with the amount of money they're going to have to be able to spend in the next couple of off seasons, that wild card game might involve the Red Sox a lot more than Red Sox fans are going to like. So they need to make some moves on the field, make their team better, make their team able to compete with the Yankees at the power level, you got to have a guy that can hit 35 to 40 homers in your lineup. You need to have it as a big market in the Red Sox. So, until those moves are made, this team is not that much different than it was 2 days ago when John Farrell was still manager. So I'll leave it on that note, guys. I don't know when I'm going to be back, but if there is any drastic news, you will definitely see me on here making a video. And again, for those that you have not seen me for 6 months and are still coming back to watch me, that's it's great because you guys are real. You guys are the reason I do this. I mean, if I didn't have an audience, I wouldn't do it. But the fact that you guys stick around is fantastic. So I'll leave it on that note. Take care, guys, and I'll talk to you guys hopefully soon. See ya.